Do you feel like a failure at your age? You might be in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s, and you feel like you've failed when it comes to financially, career, relationships. Feeling of failure can get really deep rooted into feeling of like lack of self-worth, confidence. It can also make you feel anxious, depressed, really low about yourself. So I want to talk about that feeling of failure in this video. I have experienced it myself in different stages of my life where I felt like I'm not where I imagined myself being at a certain age in different areas of my life, including relationship and career. On the screen you'll find the chapters for the video, and I'm going to share my 3 steps to overcoming the feeling of failure. And also on my channel you'll find healthy recipes, self-development tips, and also guided meditation recordings, because I believe that health should be approached in a holistic way. So let's get started. So first up is, how have you defined success or failure? So what I would say here is, like, what criteria are you using? What benchmark are we using? Is it a benchmark in the criteria that have been set by society or by family, that we've been grilled into us to believe that that's the correct criteria, meaning that you have to get married? Maybe marriage is for some people, maybe marriage is not for everyone. Maybe marriage isn't for some people that are not able to commit and wouldn't be able to be loyal or treat the person in a way that they deserve to be treated, and they know that about themselves, and therefore they don't feel like they're correct for marriage, for example. And with that comes a timeline. Like, what is the timeline that we have set, like to be married by X age, right? Like, who has set all of these criterias and timelines? I feel like people that feel like they're failures also have that pressure because we have been told that we should be achieving certain things at a certain age. I think that's insane. Like, that's really ridiculous. Everybody has their own journey to live. Like, not everybody has the same starting point. Not everybody has, for example, like parents that have a healthy relationship or that have been, been raising them in the best ways. Not everybody has the same financial background. People are dealing with different mental health issues. Some have had things that they have experienced internally or externally. For example, some people may have experienced like a loss of a parent, like during their journey, and that takes a toll on you, and it takes time to like really, grieve and recover and heal. Life is throwing different things and challenges and experiences at everyone, and to assume that everybody should be meeting those criteria at a certain age based on a certain list is so outdated, is so unrealistic, is so much pressure. And so I would first start by saying, like, what is the benchmark that you have set out for X that you feel a failure in? Like, even if it's career-wise. Let's say you're at a certain age, you're in your 30s, you're in your 40s, and you have not achieved what you thought you would achieve by this certain age. But then maybe you're also working through like trying to figure out what makes you happy and what is fulfilling, and how you can be of service in this world, and how you can really add value. Maybe if you had, for example, followed the specific path, let's say, for example, in the corporate world, to follow through that way, you would have achieved what you had thought you would achieve by a certain age, but maybe you wouldn't have felt fulfilled and happy, and you would be really lost versus venturing out in the way that your life has taken you in that aspect. I would really first take a moment to assess what it is that you're feeling that you have failed in, whether it's career, relationships, financial, and so much more. Even if you failed in a relationship, and if you've failed in a marriage, you walking into a marriage, stepping into a marriage, you're stepping in on the premise that you want to be in this, and you obviously want it to succeed, but there's always a risk with everything that you do in life, that it could work out or could not work out. So if it didn't work out, does that define you as a failure? It didn't work out, it failed, but are you a failure? On that note, also I wanted to talk about, like, are you measuring failure in one aspect of your life, or are you looking at the different aspects of your life? So let's say I am somebody who is been really successful with my career, and I have a really loving family, and I have financial security and I'm able to travel and to experience all the things that I love to experience, but I have not found a life partner. Does that mean that that's the definition of failure, or are we really looking at different aspects of our life and really feeling like so full and so happy and so fulfilled, but there's also one aspect of our life that we still want to grow and want to achieve something in that space? We might focus like how we failed to find somebody, but we've succeeded in maintaining healthy relationships like friendships and family and work and travel. There's a lot of other things that we should really focus on and not just think about only that one thing that we have not yet managed to succeed in. Second step is, if you feel like a failure based on your benchmark, if you feel like a failure today and then you've really assessed where this benchmark has come from, the timeline, the criteria, all of that sort of stuff, and you still feel like you did fail in this specific aspect of your life, relationship, financial, career, whatever, then what are you going to do about it, right? If you didn't manage to achieve what you wanted to career-wise, like, are you going to sit and blame the world and think this is like it's all over for you, it's not going to work, there's no hope, there's nothing to do about it, there's nowhere to go from here? You fall into the trap of feeling really sorry for yourself and be consumed by all the negative feelings of lack of self-worth and confidence? Or are you going to make the conscious decision and effort to do something about it, to change that? Even if we're talking about relationships, you're like, yeah, but I want to be in a relationship, but I have not been able to find the person. It's not like it's something I can do something about and make happen. And I've been putting myself out there and I've been trying, like I've been trying to meet someone, but like, what would you say to that? We can always do more. I'm sorry, like I'm not saying that it's because you haven't done enough and that's why you haven't achieved what you have achieved. That's not what I'm saying. You might have put in so much more effort. Like, you might be 40 years old and for the last 20 years you've been really proactive and trying to put yourself out there to meet somebody, and it hasn't worked out. But somebody else who was in their 20s and was set up on a blind date or whatever, was introduced to somebody as a potential, and they met them and they're like so in love and it worked out. In that case, that person didn't really put in that much effort and achieved what you have been trying to achieve for the last 20 years, and you've really been putting a lot of proactive effort in. I get that sometimes it's just, I don't know if I want to call it not fair, but I want to say that sometimes, things are not the same for everyone. That's how life is in every aspect. Just like that, somebody else can turn around and be like, yeah, but also you've had all these different privileges that I didn't get when it comes to other aspects of your life. So how is that fair then? My point is, we can always do more. We can always really focus on all the things that we do have, right? Like, really focus and be grateful for all the other things that we have so much abundance of, first of all. The other thing is, we can always work on ourselves, to love ourselves more, to work on our self-worth, our confidence, build that way. And again, if you are looking at a timeline that you haven't achieved that thing by, then you are going to feel like a failure. But like, what would you rather? Would you rather be single at your age and still proactively looking and working on yourself? Or would you have rather settled for something that doesn't make you happy and been stuck, trapped, or been in an unhealthy marriage or unhappy marriage, unfulfilled marriage? Would you rather be single at 40, or would you rather have been married and divorced by 40? Things could have played out in so many. You could have gone and married at 20 and then divorced by 40 because it didn't work. It could have happened. While you might think that you are not where you want to be today, the alternative could have been better or could have been worse. Believe that if you are following a certain timeline, then you will feel like a failure. But if you, in hindsight, also look back and think like, actually, I chose this path because I feel like this is a better path than something else that, clearly didn't work out for me. It could have been different reasons. But maybe your timeline is different for a gazillion different reasons. Maybe you didn't love yourself and that was being projected when you were meeting people. Maybe you've always loved yourself and you knew your self-worth and didn't want to settle for something that wasn't what you're really looking for and you knew was what would make you happy. I think it's so important to be proactive with the things that we feel like we're failed at. If we feel like we failed career-wise, what more can we do to learn? What skill sets can we still upskill? What are our alternative options? And I think working with a coach could be really helpful depending on what aspect of your life you feel like you failed. If you feel like you failed in work and in career, maybe work with a business coach. If you feel like you failed in relationships, maybe work with somebody who's, like a relationship coach or a life coach or a mindset coach, or maybe you can do more readings. Maybe you need to find more hobbies that find you more joy and fulfillment, and then your, perception also is different, and maybe the kind of person you start to look for, will be different. Maybe that will help you see people in different places. Like if you're finding also doing more of that, then that will only contribute to help you achieve your goal. But to feel like there's nothing more that you can do is giving up. If you're not happy with where you're at in your life, then do something about it. I'm not saying that it's always in your hands and that there are certain things that require a third party, another person, or like things that you can't physically do yourself, but we have to always take ownership for our lives, full stop. If we fall into the trap of feeling like victim mode, or it's nothing more I can do, what else can I do, then you've given up. We always have to take accountability and ownership of where we're at in life. We have to own being single. Maybe I want to be in a relationship and married, but I have to own being single because that's the choice I made, because there are certain choices I said no to, or there are certain things that I prioritize other aspects of my life. Like for example, if you're somebody who's working crazy hours every single day and you feel like, oh, I've been trying to meet someone but not, but then also you've not dedicated time to look after your health, your mental health, your attitude, your well-being, making time to mingle with people, putting yourself out there, then also you need to take accountability that you've chosen other aspects of your life to be a priority at that point. Always take accountability and ownership for where you're at. Even if you're not where you're at to your benchmark, still take accountability for it and take actions and steps that will help you achieve that. And the third step to overcoming the feeling of failure is your perception of failure. I think it's so important to really assess how you perceive failure. Do you perceive that as a bad thing, or do you perceive that as inevitable? Failure is inevitable, different aspects of our life for everyone. There isn't anybody that has not failed in anything. Even if you're a serial entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur, you would have failed on certain projects. You would have failed in certain businesses to get you to where you are. You would have failed in certain things. If you failed in relationships, do you perceive that as a negative thing, or do you take that and really learn from it and grow from it? Or are you repeating the same mistakes? Really, it's so important to perceive it differently. It is inevitable. It's obviously not a great thing. We all want to try our best to not fail in certain things, but also failure means that you at least tried, or maybe lack of trying, I guess. But if it matters to you that you failed, then again, I go back to step number 2, which is what are you going to do about it? But if you're doing something about it and you're failing and you fail again, like you failed you're 40 and you failed finding a life partner, do you fail, or do you continue to try? Like even if you continue to try more, to put yourself out more, and again you failed, then at least you've tried. If you're single at 40 and you've never put yourself out there, then you failed. But what are you going to do about it? So how do you look back then and learn from those mistakes and grow? If you are somebody who is struggling with your weight, being at a healthy weight, what can you do? What can you learn from the previous attempts that you have done and you failed in achieving your health goal? What can you learn from those? What can you learn from the things that didn't work out for you? What can you learn from the things that you did see some progress in? How can you not repeat doing what you were doing, what you were doing, like fad diets or strict, or thinking you having unrealistic expectations of expecting certain results with short periods of time versus really taking the time and thinking about it in the long term, how to achieve that goal in the long term. How do you perceive failure? Do you perceive it as inevitable and sometimes, and while it sucks, do you perceive it as a growth? Do you have a growth mindset that you take that and it'll help you grow in your next chapter? And also having empathy for yourself when you failed. We can be so hard on ourselves. We failed in one aspect of our life or multiple aspects in our life, and we feel like we're losers and we are not worthy, and we lack the confidence and we're incompetent and not capable. We take it to next levels of emotions and identity. We identify with this specific failure versus is this what defines you as a human being? Of course not. Your failure does not define you. It's important to be aware of it and to really have that right mindset, the growth mindset, take those learnings and how do you do better moving forward, and also having empathy for yourself that you feel it's okay. Now with my kids, sometimes when they fail, I'll tell them or they did something wrong and they're trying to deny hitting each other or whatever. Own it. You messed up. You did something wrong. You did something that's wrong. What did you learn from it? How did that make you feel? How did you make the other person feel? If that's something that that's not right, what can you do to do better next time? to try to avoid feeling that way if you do it. We all make mistakes. Grown-ups make mistakes. Funny thing, my kid said to me the other day, like when I was saying that to him, like he was crying and no, but I didn't. And I said, own it. It's okay, you made a mistake. Grown-ups make mistakes. I make mistakes. Today I made a mistake. And the funny thing is, he said to me like, no, grown-ups don't make any mistakes. I said, of course we do. And you do as a child, and you do as a human being, full stop, as a child and as an adult. So I think it's so important to like remember like what we're teaching our kids, or we're telling our best friends when they're feeling bad about themselves. Like we take that advice for ourselves and really have some empathy for ourselves. Like, yes, I failed in my career. I am at this age and I failed. It's okay. Like, it's okay. I failed. But what can I do to not repeat the same mistake? How can I grow? What's my mindset about it? Just, be very wary of not having like unrealistic expectations. It's such a killer. Okay, like if you're on a weight loss journey and you're not in a healthy way and you really like have a long way ahead of you, what is your expectation? That overnight or like long term? If a week passes and you feel like so frustrated by that scale because it's not what you do, you've really eaten well that week and you've really worked out, and maybe you need 2 weeks instead of that 1 week. Setting also really like grueling expectations can just really demotivate you and can make you completely give up. So it is much better to have small bites goals than massive goals that are like to be achieved in like no time. It can be really a dangerous game to play. So that's what I want to say when it comes to feeling of failure. I hope that those 3 steps, which have quite a bit in each one of them, will help you really reassess what your definition of success and failure is, and the timelines. Really reassess that and really think hard about where you've gotten that benchmark. You've reassessed and you still feel like a failure in that aspect of your life, then what are you going to do about it? Giving up, even when it's things that you feel like it's not in your hands, it's always in our hands. We have to always take accountability for our situation. It's always our responsibility to do what we would do from that point onwards. Giving up or choosing not to give up. Really working on your perception and your mindset when it comes to failure, and really remembering that's inevitable and that's normal part of life, and having empathy for yourself, and just most importantly growing from there. Like, you failed quick, fail fast, and move forward. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe for more self-development, self-help kind of content, healthy and practical recipes, because I feel like food for your soul, and also guided meditation recordings, because helping manage our stress and living more mindfully and intentionally is so important in today's hustle and bustle. If that's what you vibe with, then make sure to subscribe. I'd hope you find more of content like that. So see you in the next video.